Hello everybody.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Getting That Medical Degree, where we talk about everything medical related. So today's topic is going to be COVID. Oh, crap. Maybe they're not going to show this video because I just mentioned that word in Peru. I took a trip to South America, to Peru, and I wanted to let all the viewers know what's going on as of December of 2021. So December 2021 um, was a very interesting month because there were a lot of laws changing. Even so, in November, before I even arrived, there was a lot more restrictions. There were a lot more restrictions. We had something like it's pretty much like martial law. People were not allowed on the streets after I think in November it was like at between 10 p.m. or something, but then it was moved till between 1 and 4. So 1 a.m. and 4 or 2 a.m. and 4, no one was allowed to be out on the streets. Um, and if you were, for some reason, in a car, driving home, or in a public transportation, even though public transportation at that time this stops running. So if you were in like in a taxi or an Uber, then you could be pulled over and then you could be fined. And it was like 500 soles, would be like $100 and some change. Um, Before that, there was a big martial law that no one was allowed out. I think like 6 p.m. until the next 5 a.m. in the morning to the next day, and then it kept going back as cases started to slow down. Um, However, when I came in January, when I returned to the U.S., they moved the martial law to 11. So at 11 p.m., you were not allowed to be on the streets. So like 10, 11, people were like panicking trying to get home, because of martial law. So at 11, it was pretty much during Christmas. So 11 p.m. people were not allowed to be out and about, and it ended. I think it's like 4 a.m. 4 a.m. because people usually leave at 4 a.m. to go to work because they have to drive or take public transportation. It usually takes 2 to 3 hours. So, uh, as soon as I arrived at the airport, it was another world. Okay, well, not because the airport is mandatory masks. That's not the crazy thing. What was crazy was when I arrived to the gate. They corded the gate, so like they closed off the gate for anyone else who was not a person traveling, and it was a mandatory um, health declaration saying who have you been in contact, have you been in contact with anyone that had COVID, if so, who they were, where are you going, where are you staying, how long you're staying for, and it was a two masks. It was mandatory two masks from that moment. So from the moment that you cross into the plane, it was mandatory two masks all the way until you get out of the airport of Peru. So I had to wear two masks in the plane and in the Peruvian airport, and then outside it was mandatory by law, but like there were no cops that were like out looking, to give. Also, what was mandatory when I landed was face shields. So it was two masks and a face shield. Um, that's for all citizens. Okay, that was like on the streets of Lima. So like you'd be walking around, you can see people, and that was like masks outside and inside was a big shock for me because I'm coming, from the U.S. where like mandatory masks is relaxed, and it's kind of like whoever owns the shop decides or whoever owns the business decide, and people outside are free to not wear masks because they're outside. But when I exited the country, the airport, every everyone, and I'm telling you, everyone outside and inside, they were wearing masks. People running, doing exercises, biking, and everything with masks. It was people with masks everywhere. As soon as I landed, I think 3 days later, vaccine cards was mandatory to enter anywhere and everywhere. Um, you had to present your vaccine card, and it was a big problem for me because I was vaccinated in the U.S. So people were like, "What is this?" People thought that I was faking my vaccine, especially because I'm brown with an American vaccine, you know. Um, but if I was white, they probably would have been like, "Oh yeah, like you probably got vaccinated in your country, so like you can come in." Um, so that was very interesting that I had to show my vaccine card everywhere. It started here in the U.S., but it got implemented later in Peru. So halfway into December 10 or some change, that's when vaccines were mandatory. Vaccine cards were mandatory. Also, what it was a very big shock were families who were super strict, families who wear masks inside their house because one member will leave to go shopping. So families inside a house will wear masks. So I'm talking about the grandfather, the grandmother, the kid, the mother, the husband, the son, everyone wear a mask because there are people constantly coming in and out. And they will take it off in the rooms or like whatever, or the bathroom, whatever, you know. But like that was a shock because like, you know, I'm coming from the idea that like, you know, I'm home, I can take my mask off, I'm safe, I can like relax my mask and like all the pressure that it and the sweat that builds up and everything, right? But no, I had to wear in family reunions and everything. It was very shocking. It was a very different world because in South America, it hit them very very hard to the point that it collapsed their health system. They didn't have any beds available. People were put on chairs outside on like the courtyards and yards outside, and there was no oxygen. So you had to buy your own gas tank of oxygen, and that was and the people who would sell the oxygen were skyrocketing the prices and, you know, taking advantage of the poor people. But there was nothing they could do because they had to buy them for their family members. So a tank of oxygen usually would cost like 100 soles, which is like 25 $20 or whatever. And they were skyrocketing the prices to 15,000 soles, which is like thousands of dollars, $2,000 $3,000. So it's like we go for $20 to like $5,000. That's a humongous increase. That's like taking advantage of people, you know. So that and the health system collapsed completely because there were no doctors and nurses who they were dying left and right. The PPE was not personal protection equipment was not available for everyone, uh, and I personally didn't live through it, but my family did. So they were telling me, you know, every day of the ordeals of some family members who were sick. One of my cousins, who's a medical doctor down there, he got COVID and he was very bad, and but he was constantly in the hospital. So people down there do believe more so that people in more developed countries that COVID is real. They do believe that the vaccines work. Of course, I also, when I was walking around, I went to the center of the town, which it was like it's a plaza, it's like a plazuela or whatever it's called. Um, and there was a march going on, and there was like 50 people that were complaining that the mandates, the vaccine mandates were against their rights, and that they were not real, and the vaccine was fake, and the COVID was fake, and COVID was created by the government to control it. But so the crazy thing is that COVID was created by the Peruvian government to control it. So it was not like COVID was created by another government from another country. So you see what I'm coming from, Zach?
Yeah, see.
So 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 COVID for them was very close to home, and poor people, you know, didn't have it. Now, also people were wearing PPEs on the street, so you could see people wearing like a personal protection overall with a mask or a gas tank, like one of those masks that nurses wear now. Those are like the double infused, like a double filter gas masks that had a hose that connected to the back, where the back was there was a motor that will distribute and recycle the oxygen and everything. Um, so that's what they were wearing. They were wearing the whole jumpsuits that you see, you know, in the movies. There were colors. There were colors from orange, black, green, gray, blue. There was a lot more blue because that's were the most popular ones. Um, or people, instead of wearing the whole overall, they will wear a specific, like a very very long rain like coat. There was a long sleeve coat. They were wearing gloves. They were wearing a face shield with goggles and a mask, and they had the hood up, and the and this rain thing was completely, covered, and it only allowed them to walk. So it was up to the ankles where it was free. So that's where it stopped, or the calves. That's where it stopped. So you can see the jeans of the person and the shoes, and that's how they moved around. But so these people probably, what I asked my family, and I was like, these people probably take care of people who have predisposed conditions, So like, these are people who probably take care of the elderly or kids that have some sort of illness that if they get COVID, they could die. They could be really harmed by this pandemic. So these were people who probably did that, and that's why they were protecting themselves. Because when you saw them, you never saw them walking around or walking a dog or anything like that. You saw them with like a little cart. It was like a food cart. Um, it was like carrying a trolley. So like your suitcase is kind of like a suitcase, but instead of to put clothes, it's kind of like a mesh thing where you can put your food in there. All right. So it was a little trolley, and they were carrying it filled with groceries. And what was crazy is that my family, when they were received the groceries, despite of the fact that we had new information, some of my family, that despite of the fact that we had some information, when we got into the house, of course, we had to take our shoes off, and we will leave, well, they will leave the groceries in a specific location, and they will wipe the groceries, they will clean it, or they will wash the groceries, or they will leave it there. If it couldn't be washed, they will leave it there for a whole day. And then they will remove it from that specific table, or location, or section, and then they will bring it into the kitchen, into the living room, into, to be shared, to be eaten, to be enjoyed. But if it was immediate, like if they bought like ready to eat meals, like or delivery, then they will wipe it, and and they will wipe it on the moment, and then they will bring it inside. They will serve it and everything. Um, some families of my friends were so excessive to the point that each family member had their own soap, their own towel, their own um, just toilet paper, their own like specific, health, hygienic stuff. Um, and it was and they would not allow. So like some of my friends, families, they would not allow anyone to come into the house. So we're talking about 2 years of no one coming to fix a toilet, or no one coming to paint something or fix something that broke, or like a window that broke. So like these people, they did not have interaction except with their immediate families. And some of my friends, they when I was there, they got visit from other family members. So I asked them, and I was like, so who's coming? And I was like, oh, it's my cousin. And then turns out that they will not allow the other uncles or cousins to come in to see the grandparents. They will see them through the window that overlook the outside, the street, or that overlook the little yard. So they will let them in, into the yard, or into, because it's not like here that you have a yard in front of. It's kind of like the street gives to the door gives to the sidewalk. There is no like yard down in South America, on the city houses. So I'll bring him in, and there was like a little section between the door and the entrance of the kitchen or the living room or whatever. So they will stand there, and they will look through the window and everything. And it was very shocking and very different. You could not go into the hospital, because I wanted to go into the hospital to record and to have make a video of what I experienced in the hospital, but you could not unless you had an appointment, and they were very strict to who was coming in and out, because the guard would ask like, what's your name, what's your appointment, blah blah blah. So implications for the future, well, right now they have lifted martial law, I think 2 weeks ago. The masks outside and inside still mandatory. The vaccine card, I think they have relaxed that in different places. Families of my friends are still super strict. I've asked around if you can still see people wearing PPEs. So that's been okay. So the pandemic started 2020, and I saw them wearing PPEs on 2021. and now we're 2022. So these people have been wearing, the personal protection units for 2 years on the streets. Um, so implications for the future is very bleak because the health system in Peru is completely trash. And I just have to be honest. I'm sure there are some good things, and I'm sure I'm gonna hear some comments about this, but my country is in trouble right now. So um, as I know more, then I'll make more videos about this. But yeah, so this was my experience, experiencing a pandemic in a third world country. What do you think, Zach?
It's a lot different than the US, for sure.
It's another world, man. Well, thank you so much for tuning in. I'll catch you guys in the next video.
Peace.